everyone, it's great to see you again. This is Living Power, your online Bible study where we are walking through the Bible in a year. It is great to be back with you today. We are in the book of Joshua. We're nearing the end, and this is a great time to be joining the class. If you are just now finding us online, I want to welcome you. If you have been with me for a while, or maybe you've been with me from the very beginning, I know many of you watch each video every single day faithfully, and I just want to thank you for your faithfulness and your commitment to reading the Bible this year, cover to cover, and for your commitment to this Bible study. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the value of partnership. You know, when I was working in the corporate world, we would always place great emphasis in building strategic partnerships. So we would look for companies that had a common interest in our mission, and we would look for ways that we could partner and expand our reach and do bigger and greater things together. So John Maxwell is a leadership guru. You may have read some of his books, but he also talks about the power of partnership and the value of team. And I remember in one of his books he said that it's so important to become a part of a team because a team can do so much more than an individual can do alone. So as we're looking at the story today of the Israelites taking the land, notice how they partner with each other. Of course, the people within a tribe work together, but the tribes, intertribe almost, the tribes are partnering with each other, and the tribes on the east side of the Jordan have come to help the tribes on the west side of the Jordan take their land. So kind of as we go through this, think about the lesson today from the perspective of partnerships and how valuable they are. Now, the territory of the land that we're talking about, I gave you a map today on the website, and you might want to refer to that from time to time, but I'm going to post that probably the next 3 days for you because it's just easier for me to see a visual of the land that we're talking about, and I imagine it might be helpful to you too. So I'm going to keep giving you this chart. But the territory that we're talking about is 150 miles north to south and 50 miles east to west. Some of you geography experts would probably know, be able to compare that size to one of the states in the U.S. I think it's about the size of Delaware. You can correct me if I'm wrong. You can put a comment on the blog today. But I'm pretty sure that the size of the land that we're talking about is about the size of the state of Delaware. So it's not a really big land, but it's so significant. You know, people wonder, why did God choose this part of the world to plant His people? And it's because this was the center of the world at that time, and it was a bridge to Europe, to Africa, to the Middle East, and God wanted His people to be a light to the nations, so He plopped them right in the middle of the ancient world. Okay, did your reading seem tedious to you today? I hope not, because you are reading the title deed to the land in Israel. And we will be reading more of the title deed over the next 2 days. So it may be sort of easy reading for you over the next couple of days, but I just want you to appreciate as you're reading it. I mean, you are literally reading the title deed that has not changed. It is still in effect. And if you look at it that way, it makes it just a little bit more exciting. I wonder if the UN knows about this. It would save a lot of negotiation time, wouldn't it, if they knew that there was already a title deed written to the land. But this was a very happy time in the life of Israel. This was a time after 40 years of wandering. They now have a place where they can lay down roots, they can build homes, they can start profitable businesses, they can just give roots to their families. So this was a very happy time for them because they get to settle down. Now, I wanted to talk to you about Joshua and Caleb today, just to give you a little bit of background on them. Let's start with Joshua. In the reading today, Joshua is about 100 years old. He dies at 110, so he's got 10 more good years in him. But the Lord does say that you are growing old and much land needs to be conquered, so I'm going to help you drive the rest of the people out. And I wanted us to remember God's promise to Joshua back in 1:6. Why did God have to say, hey, I'm coming in to help you because it's getting late and we got to pick up the pace here? Basically, that's what God was saying. Well, in Joshua 1:6, the promise God made to him was that you will be the one to lead the people to possess all the land I swore to their ancestors. So God says, I'm going to come in and I'm going to drive out the people ahead of you. There were some Canaanites still in the land. Now in the reading today we read that he defeated 31 kings, and this is all on the west side of the Jordan River. You remember that the tribes on the east side of the Jordan River already took that land. That was back when we read about the Sihon and Og. Sihon and Og. They were two kings that were defeated way back with Moses, before Moses died. So those 2.5 tribes, remember Manasseh, if you look at the map, they have some land east of the Jordan and west of the Jordan. So when you read about 2.5 tribes, that's what you mean. But it'll make more sense to you as you look at the map today. What you're reading about today is them taking the west side of the Jordan, and this is the land of Canaan. And I'm going to give you a little historical background to the land of Canaan in just a minute. Caleb is 85 years old right now, so he is a little bit younger than Joshua. So they were 2 of the 12 spies that went in to the land 40 years ago and looked around. You remember what the spies said when they came back to Moses? 10 of them said, oh no, we can't do it. You got to be kidding, these people are huge. But 2 people said, absolutely we can do it. We need to go take them now because God is with us. And when he's with us, we can do anything. That was Joshua and Caleb, 2 great men of faith. So we see Caleb was about 15 years younger than Joshua. 6 times in the reading it says he wholly followed the Lord. And what a difference it makes when you believe and trust in the Lord. And that's what we can learn from the life of Caleb. His faith back then saved his life, because all the other 10 spies in the entire generation, the disbelieving generation, died out in the wilderness, and they could not take or come into the promised land. So in that way, his faith saved his life and allowed him to live longer and certainly enter into the land. It gave him an inheritance of the land. It helped him to overcome the enemy because he was able to do so much more with God and in partnership with God than he could have ever thought of doing alone. And it enabled him to provide for his family for years to come, because we see that he received a bit of land, and we learned that he had a daughter, and that his daughter married Othniel today, and that is just a book waiting to be written right in and of itself. It's a great love story. Caleb is a father figure, and he's saying, whatever young, strong, burly man is out there that can take a town and go in and conquer gets to marry my daughter. And Othniel stands out of the crowd, and he takes the city. He's a conqueror, and he gets to marry the girl. And they live happily ever after. And so they were able to inherit part of the land, and they lived in the land there with Caleb. So, are you trying to provide for your family? Well, Caleb certainly did a good job, but the best thing that Caleb did, and the best thing that you can do for your family, more than anything else, is to leave them with a strong legacy of faith. And that's what Caleb did. Now, what's so significant about the land he's requesting? I want to read to you a little bit out of, I'm on page 346. It's Joshua 14, verse 12. And then we're going to go back, and I'm going to read you something that happened before that we did read before, but it's such a little detail you may have missed it. Here's the question for you I want you to watch out for. What is significant about the land that Caleb is requesting? Okay, here we go. I'm on page 346. Almost. Here we go. Now, as you can see, the Lord has kept me alive as well as he promised for all these 45 years since Moses made this promise, even while Israel wandered in the wilderness. Today, I, Caleb, am 85 years old. I am as strong now as I was when Moses sent me on that journey, and I can still travel and fight as well as I could then. So give me the hill country that the Lord promised me. You will remember that as scouts we found the descendants of Anak living there in great walled towns. But the Lord is with me. I will drive them out of the land, just as the Lord said. Okay, now let me go back over here. I'm going back to page 243, which is Numbers 13, verse 25, the scouting report. When he was a youngster 40 years ago, the 12 spies went in. This is the report that they said when they came back to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a beautiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here is the kind of fruit it produces. Remember, they brought back this big thing of grapes. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak, A-N-A-K. The Amalekites live in the Negev, and the Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast and along the Jordan Valley. And then, of course, Caleb says, no, stop, be quiet, we can go in and take them. So, what did you see there? What's significant about the land that Caleb is requesting? It's these people, the Amalekites, the descendants of Anak. These people were very large people. They had very strong-walled, fortified cities. This was the very land that the spies said was too big, we weren't going to do it. And this is the very people, the very town that Caleb is saying today, this is what I would like for my inheritance. And remember, the requirement was if you wanted the land, you had to go in and get rid of the people. And that was what he was saying. He has as much courage, as much strength as he did back then. The people back then wouldn't do it, but he will do it, and he will still do it. And that's the land that he ended up conquering and taking. What a man of faith this Caleb really is. He was an overcomer. So how do we be an overcomer? Be wholly devoted to the Lord, like Caleb. Know what the Word says, and this year we're getting more familiar with what the Word says. Depend on God to give you the victory, and do exactly as He tells you without delay, just like Caleb did. Now, I said I was going to give you a bit of a history lesson for who were the Canaanites. Very simply, the Canaanites were the people living in Canaan. You'll hear that a lot on TV. You'll hear that a lot in Sunday school. And basically, they were the people living west of the Jordan River. So on your map, between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, those people, all that was considered Canaan, the Canaanites. It took 7 years for all these 31 kings and all this territory west of the Jordan to be conquered. So this is not just a day or a week or a month. This is 7 years of fighting. And the people on the east side of the Jordan, those 2.5 tribes, have been over on the west side this whole time, away from their families, away from their land, helping their brothers fight and take the land on the west side. Now, over 7 years, some cities were conquered, but not all the people were killed. Some people, the Canaanites, left, they fled, but then they came back, kind of snuck in, and they came back, and they had to be driven out again. So these were some of the hardships, the difficulties that the Israelites were facing through this time. It wasn't an easy time. This wasn't an easy task. Tomorrow you'll notice that Judah, the tribe of Judah, could not drive out the Jebusites from Jerusalem. And in tomorrow's reading, look for the particulars of the troubles that they had. Where were they in driving the people out from the land? Now, what I'm taking from this reading today is this, that we underestimate 3 things in our life. We underestimate the value of time. We evaluate things based on speed. In the corporate world, it's how quickly you can get something to market. Its success is based on how quickly you can get something done, how many things you can get crossed off your to-do list in a day. We measure success of churches by the number of people in the seats, when God measures success by the changing of someone's heart. Now, doesn't the changing of someone's heart take much longer than simply counting people who have arrived? I used to measure success of my team based on how fast they could deploy a new technology. But God told Abraham he would be the father of many nations 25 years before that promise was actually fulfilled when he ended up having Isaac. So, the second thing we underestimate is the power of prayer and asking God for bigger blessings. Remember, the daughter of Caleb came and said, "Father, I would like to ask for this particular land. I think it had some springs on it, and it was just a good piece of land." And she was able to receive that. If you have faith in Christ, you have direct access to the Lord who sits on the throne. Do we take advantage of the power of prayer? And the third thing that we underestimate is the value of partnership with God. And what can be accomplished when we see ourselves living our life in partnership with the holy God, the creator of the whole earth. How would your life be different if you saw yourself in partnership with him in everything that you do? Would you need to invite him a little closer into your world? Or would you perhaps need to draw a few steps closer to his kingdom and his kingdom work and come to understand what he is all about so that you can do his kingdom work here on earth? Well, it's just food for thought. So as you read the next couple of days, I encourage you to look for things in this title deed that gave the Israelites trouble and difficulty, where they were able to take the land and where it was difficult for them. We will continue to talk about this over the next couple of days. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and blessings to you.